Okay, we left off yesterday. Gemara had said we had a question. Two agents are sent with money to pay the creditor. The lovig is the money, pay the creditor. And they testify that they paid the creditor. So Gemara says maybe they should not be believed because the only reason why that's saying they paid the creditor, the malveh, the lender, is because if they would, because what's the alternative if they didn't pay? They have to say they returned it to the loveh. If the loveh says that he didn't receive the money, they have a problem because they're on the line for the money. They're bali dvarim. Regarding paying the malveh, they're not bali dvarim, correct? They're not the baldover of the malveh. The malveh says, I didn't receive the money. We say, you did receive the money. So they believed. They're witnesses. But regarding the lender, if the lender says, they said, we gave it back to you, and he says, I didn't receive it, they're not believed to say they gave it to him. Because to the lender. Let's say the creditor said, the shluchim said, we couldn't find the malveh, we gave it back to you, to the borrower. Let's say they would say that. Are they believed as witnesses? They're not believed. Because they're bali dvarim. It's like I go to two people, I lent you two people money. They said, we paid you. They're the bali dvarim over here, right? They're the baldover. So if you have the opinion of hamalvis chaver be'edim, tzorach lefora be'edim, if you have the opinion, if you borrow witnesses, you have to return witnesses. So it doesn't work. They're not believed. So they would prefer to say, we gave the money to the lender, right? Because the alternative is, they're going to be on the line for the money. So therefore, how do we accept the testimony that they gave the money to the lender? So the Gemara says, evidently, see from here, from Rav Nachman, that a malvus chaver be'edim is ein tzarich lefora be'edim. No, they have the alternative. They could have said, we returned it. If they would have said, we returned it to the borrower, they're just as fine as saying the other way. As a result of that, there's no reason why we should question why they're saying that they gave the money to the lender. Right? That was the Gemara yesterday. But the Gemara says, but now, today, that we have such a thing as shuas heses, that's on a Torah level. But at a certain point in history, they legislated that a person has, even if you're of the opinion, malvos chaver beidim, ain't tzorich lefora beidim, but nevertheless, if a person comes to with a claim that I lent you money, everybody agrees to this, and the person says, yes, I borrowed, but I paid, you have to take a rabbinical oath. Right? You have to take a shua d'rabbanan. So if that's the case, if they would say we gave it back to the lender, to the borrower, they have to take an oath. So, but if because they're bali dvarim, right? That's the only way they're going to be absolved from paying the money. So they would prefer to say they gave the money to the lender. They'd have to take an oath over there. So again, we have the same problem. So this should be undermined the validity of the testimony. Okay? And said Moses, Enoch, in truth, it's true. Therefore, they're not believed. They're not believed to say they gave the money to the lender. We'll discuss, I'm just going to stop right here. They're not believed because the alternative would have been to say we gave the money to the borrower, and then they would have taken the oath. So Tosas asked a question, which this is where I left off yesterday. Let them take a shvua that they returned, that they did not take the money, that they gave the money to the lender. Let them take a shvua. We gave the money to the lender. Right? Because what's the whole discussion? They didn't want to take an oath. So let them take an oath. We gave the money to the lender. So therefore, we see clearly we've removed their conflict of interest. Because you see over here, the shvua is not the issue. Correct? They're taking the oath. And after they take the oath, now we should accept the testimony that the lender received his money. Right? So now the testimony has validity. So now the lender no longer has a claim against the borrower. No, one oath. Let the why we question the validity of the testimony? Because of the shvua. Right? So let the witnesses take the oath. We gave the money to the lender. And once they say that, then there's no conflict of interest anymore. Clearly, they're not saying they gave it to the lender because they want to absolve themselves from the shvua, because they're taking the shvua. So let them take the shvua. We gave the money to the lender, and now we'll accept their testimony face value that they paid off the debt. It's the same, because it's the same thing. It's the same rabbinical shvur. It's the same rabbinical shvur. Right? We're saying, so Tosas answers because now why are we giving validity to their testimony? Because they took the oath, but the Torah says no. Evidence has to be independent of anything. We accept your testimony because in your own right you believed. What is the basis for their testimony to be valid now? Because they took the oath? That's not the testimony the Torah spoke about. Okay? Therefore, it's not a solution. So therefore, what has to happen? So now, the witnesses claim, they swear we gave it to the lender. They swear they gave it to the lender. The lender says, you know something? I never received it. But they took an oath. It's their own, took an oath. I never agreed to believe this. I don't know this man from Adam. There's a cheskes chiyuv. You owe me money. He says to the borrower, you owe me money. But they swore. So what if they swore? The shvur means nothing. The debt, it doesn't absolve the borrower. And the borrower has that. But now, this is no different than the mission in Shavuos. But since there's a claim that the lender received the money, he has to swear that he did not receive the money. So two people swear. They even have to swear that they gave the money. The lender swears that he never received the money. Now, when they both swear, now the borrower has to pay the debt. Why? Because since there's a cheskes chiyuv, there's the debt was in force until this whole thing came about, and we have a question whether it was satisfied or not. So based on cheskes chiyuv, the borrower has to pay the lender. No question. Yeah, but it's irrelevant. How does the bezdin have to deal with it? So what if one of them is definitely lying? One of them is definitely lying. Okay. Okay. Now there's something else. But let's get back. The classical case is the Mishnah, which I mentioned yesterday. We ended off with this. It's called Chenvoni al Pintkoso. The storekeeper who keeps a tab of what? A credit tab, right? You have a person who's an employer, and he has an arrangement with the general store that the employees, each of them has an account, and they could collect up. They could take merchandise up to the amount of the wage. Wait. Let me just repeat the case. So the employer says, whatever you say, if you say I owe you the money, I accept your word face value. That's what the employer says to the store owner, right?
So the employer is not paying it, but cash?
No, they have an alternative. No, if they collect it in goods, that means the storekeeper paid his debt. And if they don't collect, then he'll pay them their wage. So they have a choice. Either take it in merchandise or take it in cash. Right? So now, the employees come. They come to the employees. We'd like to be paid. So the employer says to the employees, but the storekeeper says, you already collected your wage at the store. Right? And the employees say, we never went to the store. They say the storekeeper is lying. So now, what do? The storekeeper claims he's owed money because he paid the wage with merchandise. The employees claim they never got paid their wage. The employer has a cheskes chiyuv, right? Because he definitely owed a wage at one time. Was the wage satisfied? So the Mishnah says that because we can't resolve it, it's irresolvable. We have no witnesses what happened. So since there's a cheskes chiyuv to the employees have to first swear. They swear. After they swear, they collect the debt. Because from the employer. And because the employer said to the storekeeper, I take your word at face value, meaning, therefore, we see it as there's cheskes chiyuv. He owes the storekeeper whatever he claims to be, similar to the employees. But the storekeeper has to swear also. He has to swear. But if the employees swear and the storekeeper swear, he pays both of them. He has to pay both of them. That's similar here. We have a cheskes chiyuv between the lov and the malva. Right? The lov owes the money to the malva. So therefore, he has to. But the malva has to swear. After the malva swears, he has to pay, because there's a cheskes chiyuv. But you're going to say to me, but the witnesses swore that they paid me the money. The lender says, look, I couldn't care what the witnesses swore. I don't believe the witnesses. To me, they're meaningless. I don't even know these people. You choose to send people to me, take an oath, I don't know them. So it's the same thing over there, because the storekeeper says, but the employee swore. So what if the employee swore? It's irrelevant to me if the employee swore, right? That doesn't impact the debt. That if there's reason to say that the reason why they're saying, let's say the lender never said a word. They delivered it, there's no issue. Of course, we don't need testimony there, right? But here the question is, the lender say, I never received the money. So now we have to summon the shluchim, the agents, to testify that they gave the money. Wait. So now we have a question. We have a question. So we're going to accept that testimony, because Torah says you accept testimony. But I'll say maybe factually they didn't give the money, and they're only saying this because the alternative, they don't want the alternative. So therefore, that puts a question in the testimony. But on normal circumstances, two witnesses say Reuven killed Shimon. Maybe they're lying. Torah says, something. Person says that's not a basis to say maybe they're lying.
Well, once you have a denial, now the witnesses have the potential to become a baldav, right?
In that case, only by the case of, let's say a case of mazik. Witnesses, we saw the man throw the stone through the man's window. We saw his ox gore the other man's cow. Well, what nogea is over there? There's no nogea.
So it's only in the case where they're acting.
Because when they took the money, they have responsibility. Because if they don't deliver that money, they're held accountable for that money. They become the debtors. Right? The moment they take that money, they're debtors, unless they deliver it. You're right, 100%. The Shomer's not believed. The Shomer has to swear. Yeah, same thing. So here Tosei is an interesting shaila, an interesting question. Tosei is a question. The Gemara says if you want to substantiate a shtar, a document, if you want to collect with a document, the witnesses have to be substantiated, right? You have witnesses because the lender could say that the borrower could say it's a forged document. It's forged. Well, let's say you have a deed, and you have signatures on the deed. So the original owner could say, you know something, I never wrote that deed, right? It's forged signatures, right? So what do you have to do? So the one who has the deed has to go and substantiate the witnesses, the signatures, that they're not forged, they're real signatures. How do you do it? Either you summon the witnesses, and they testify, these are our signatures, right? Or somebody recognizes it, he says, or you take a document that's been substantiated previously, by comparison documents, the court will substantiate it. And it's called the handpick. They put a certification of the court that the document's been substantiated. So the Mishnah speaks about a case, they summon the witnesses, and they say, yes, it's our signatures, but, and they say, we were forced to sign at the threat of our lives. That's what they say. Anusim hayinu machmas nefoshos. At the threat of our lives, that's what we signed. So they're believed, and the document's invalidated. What about if they would say, Anusim hayinu machmas momon? No, why shouldn't they believe? They're not balit dvarim here. They're coming. It's not relevant to them. That testimony is relevant to the document. They're witnesses. They're testifying this document is not valid, even though our signatures are on the document, because it was the threat of our lives we put our signatures on documents. So they believed. No, they're regular witnesses. It's not relevant to them personally, right? But what about if they say, Anusim achmas momon? It's true, it's our signatures, but we were bribed, and the document has no value, right? So the Gemara says, they're not believed. So the Tosos over here cites what Tosos asks in Ksubis, but they have amigo. Let them not believe there's witnesses, but let them believe with amigo. Believe us that the document is not valid because we were bribed, because if we wanted, we could have said, We were anus machmas nefoshos, right? So it's the same thing. In either way, normally we say, the Gemara says that the Gemara says every motive b'miktzas, you have to swear. Person makes a partial claim, partial admission, he has to swear. Reuven says to Shimon, you owe me $100. Shimon says 50. So he has to take a shvur. So the Gemara asks, he has a migu. Believe me that I owe you 50, because if I would have denied it totally, I wouldn't have to swear at all. So believe me, I'm honest that what I'm saying is 50. So why does the Torah impose a shvur? That's the worst question. The Gemara says, because Eino Demei Pon of Vnei Balchovo. A person doesn't have the arrogance to say to a man where he knows he owes him money, I don't owe you money. Right? So therefore, it's not a valid migu. That's the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Also Gemara in Ksubis. Alec, you following? I see that. Okay? So the Gemara says it's not a valid migu because ain't other mayas pun of nebalcho. Person doesn't have the insolence to say to a man who knows that you owe money, I owe them. To say I owe you less money, that I could live with. But to say I owe you nothing, that degree of arrogance a person doesn't have. Wait one second. So Tosa, so I'm just bringing him. Either way, a man comes with a deed. He claims the deed is valid. Whether it's machmas nefosh, machmas moment, either way, we're saying the deed is worthless. So the migu here, there's no ein other meis pon of nechov. He says, well, you threatened me with my life. What difference does that? Threatened my life, threatened me with bribe. Either way, you're a dishonest man. And so here the lie has nothing to do with it. Even though it's mamon, I could say to you, you're a thief. Whether the document's not valid because you threatened us with our lives, or it's not valid because you bribed us. You understand? Therefore, this is a viable migu over here. It's not comparable there. There, he would prefer to say a partial admission by motive miktsas. There, he would prefer to say a partial admission rather than it's totally deny it. But here, in either way, he's saying to the man who has the deed, you're a thief. You're a thief either because the document's not valid because you threatened us with our lives or because you bribed us. In a certain way, by saying a bribe, we're putting ourselves in the worst light, right? Because it reflects poorly on it, right? So that's Tosas Kasha. So why do we say they're not believed? Let them be believed with a migu.
You don't have the Einadam.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, right, correct. Wait, so Tosas answers something interesting. Tosas answers that we don't say migu when we're dealing with two people. When you're dealing with one person, I could say, I could have said that, but who said both people would have thought about the same thing? You understand? When I'm dealing with one person, you say migu. But believe me on this, of course, I could have said something else. But to say two people would have thought about the same thing, it's much more difficult to say. No. Again, but if they're dishonest. When the court starts interrogating, the court interrogates each separately, right? So therefore, who said he would have thought the same thing as the other person? So by two people, you don't say migu. You don't say migu, right? That's what Tosa says. That's what over there, the migu is not a valid migu. Therefore, we say Eino the Mesamatsu Russia. Therefore, we cannot believe because there's no reason there's no basis to say that what you're saying has any validity. If I'd have a migu would be proved that what I'm saying has validity. Because if I would have wanted to invalidate the document, I could have by saying it was at the threat of our lives. That's what a Mishnah says. If they say anus machmas mamon, they're not believed because there's no migu, right? Even though if it would be one person would be a valid migu, with two people we don't say it.
Two people doesn't that prove their validity even more? Like two different people.
No, they're not saying. Factually, they're saying anus machmas mamon. But we to believe them because they would have said something else. Who said they would? Both of them would have thought about the other thing that they would have said.
So therefore, we do believe them.
Therefore, we don't believe them. The question is, the Gemara says you don't believe them because Eino Dmes Matzmo Rosha. Right? That's what we don't believe in. But what if I'd have a migu to prove that what I'm saying now is correct? If I would have wanted to invalidate this document, could have I?
Right.
I could have. By saying something else. So if you're dealing with one person, you say you could have said something. When I'm dealing with two people, you don't say that. Because two people may not think about the same thing. So what do I deal with? I won't deal with face value. What you're saying, you were bribed. I can't accept it. The Meis Matzu Rosha. 1 more second. So that's Tosa's answer here. Okay?
But the Meis Matzu Rosha means somebody wouldn't do that, or we just don't accept that?
No, there's a presumption. Right. What you're saying we can't accept because it's contrary to the way people behave. That we don't believe you. But if I have a migu to show that, but there's always exceptions. The migu says I am the exception. Because if I wanted to invalidate the document, I could have said machmas nefoshos. Correct? And especially I'm making myself look worse by saying machmas mamu. Okay? Okay, that's Tosa's answer. Because two people. Where does Tosa say this somewhere else? The Gemara says in Bava Basra, you have trey utreg. Two witnesses say Reuven lent Shimon money. Two witnesses say, two witnesses say he lent them money, and Shimon denies it. So he has to pay. Shimon brings two witnesses say, how could have Shimon borrowed the money? Shimon at the date of the loan, he was in California, he wasn't in New York. Right? No, they're not. It's like they're not saying about the witnesses were elsewhere. They're saying about the borrower. The borrower couldn't have borrowed the money; it was elsewhere. So, what are the arguments? The fact. What's the fact? Was he in New York? Was he in California? It's called trey utreg. So, therefore, they're not believed. Therefore, the man can't collect because it's stalemate. We don't know who to believe. Is Group A saying the truth or Group B saying? We don't know. Okay? We say motzchavel varaya. Burden of proof unless we invalidate one of the pairs, the money stays where it is. Okay. So Tosa is a question of Basra. The latter group who comes in, they should be believed. Of course, they could have said, guys, if they want to be believed, they say, believe us, we're telling the truth, because if we wanted to invalidate the first group, we could have said, Gazlonim hoyu. We could have said they're thieves. Let's say the second group comes, not even Zomim. They say the two people say to Reuven or Shimon $100. We once saw that they stole, or they were convicted in a certain bezdin 20 years ago, and therefore they're not qualified witnesses. If they would have said that, they invalidate them. Correct? So believe us that we're telling the truth, because our testimony is the correct testimony. Because we wanted to be believed, we had a simple solution. We could have disqualified the first group by saying Gazlonim hoyu. Migu is always that. I'm going to say something which is not. If I'm really dishonest, right? I could have lied about. I could have. If you're saying what I'm saying now is dishonest, I'm lying in court. So I could have, if I wanted to accomplish what I wanted to, I could have said the first ones were thieves, and I could have accomplished what I wanted. I'm an honest man. I'm not saying they're thieves. I'm saying whatever I'm saying, right? So believe me what I'm saying. That's Tosa's question. So Tosa's answers, one of the answers, regarding two people, we don't say migu. Same answer as over here, as Tosa says Ksubas and Tosa says over here. Okay? No, they're not two Adim. No. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Person comes and says, what are you doing in my property? What are you doing in my property? And the man, so if the man has a deed, it's no problem. He shows his deed. If he has witnesses that he was there 3 years, and the original didn't protest, also, silence for 3 years, equivalent document. Let's say it's neither. The man comes out and says, what are you doing in my property? He says, it's true, it's your property, but I bought it from you. He says, you have a deed? He says, no. You have witnesses? No. What's the halacha there? What would you say? What would you say? We're speaking about the original man with the claim. He has no proof that he was the original owner. The basis for him being the original owner is because the man says, it's true, it was yours, but I bought it from you. See, if the man, the original owner, comes with proof that he was the original owner, of course, you take him off the property. But here, what is the basis why we're even considering the first person to be the rightful owner. Because the man admitted that he was the owner. The man has a migu. He has a migu. Believe me that I bought it from you or I received it from you as a gift because I want to be dishonest. I could have said to you, I never saw you before in my life. There's no basis for you to make a claim over here. The only basis is my admission. Therefore, believe me, I'm honest because I really wanted to be dishonest. I could have just ignored you totally. Because he doesn't have a deed. He has no proof he was the original owner. So we're talking about one person. That's the migu. Most cases, migu is the one person.
There it works.
That's this answer. Two people, you don't say migu.
So over there it works, and who keeps the property?
The one who's in there. Until the original person brings proof that he was the original owner, he remains in the property. Okay? That's the mission. The first mission, the second parak in Ksubas. Okay? So now, Tosfos gives another answer. Tosfos in Ksubas gives another very interesting answer. What if a person has a migu? And somebody brings witnesses which say contrary to the migu. Who's believed? The witnesses. Why? Because migu is not absolute evidence, right? Migu is only because there's always an exception. There's always an exception. Witnesses is absolute fact. So good. So he says like this. We say let's say one person brings 2 witnesses, another person brings 100 witnesses. What do we say? 2 is 100, right? You can't have more than absolute. We don't know who to believe. Do we believe the 100? Do we believe the 2? Still, that's called trey. We say trey kameya. 2 is the equivalent of 100. So now we say, you want me to believe the second pair because they have a migu. Because they have a migu. So you want migu to be pit against testimony. Right? You can't. Because what they're saying is considered absolute. We just don't know who to believe. But that should be the basis to be believed. Factually, you didn't disqualify Group A. If they would have said they're thieves, it was one thing. You didn't say, believe me, my testimony is more correct because I could have invalidated them. But you didn't invalidate them. So you want the migu to be the basis why I should believe you. Of course. So therefore, that's the other answer. That's why it's still trey. That's the second answer. There's a third answer. What is the third answer? Just slip in mind. There's a third answer. Yeah, either it's 2 witnesses, you don't say it. Trey kameya. Just thought of the other answer. Just don't recall the third answer. There's a third answer. Why the migu is not a migu. Okay. So over here, I was thinking about quoting the third answer is what I want to be believed as a witness. Over here, Tosfos says, let this witness take a shvuas heses. Right? When they say we gave the money to the lender, why don't we believe them? So Gemara says, but they have a conflict. Because the reason why they're saying, because if they would say anything differently, they'd have to take a shvuah. Right? That's what Gemara says. Therefore, they're not believed to say they gave the money to the lender. And therefore, the borrower has to pay the lender again. So Tosfos says, let them swear. And after they swear, let's accept the testimony. Right? That was Tosfos' question. What did Tosfos answer? When the Torah says, Apishnai made him Yokum Dover, the testimony has to stand independent of anything else. But if he has taken oath to give validity to the testimony, that testimony is not acceptable. Right? That's Tosfos' answer. What's Tosfos' question? Every trey believe them that what they're saying is correct. Why they have a migu? So what's the basis for your testimony? It's the migu. So it's no different than taking the oath. Right? It's the exact same thing. Migu doesn't work with Eidim. You want to believe migu is one thing. But over here, no. We want the migu to give validity to say that they, as Eidim, they are the authentic witnesses. So why am I accepting what you're saying? Because of the migu. But that's not testimony. It's interesting. The Chafetz Chaim writes in the Chafetz Chaim regarding the laws of Lashon Hara. 2 people come, credible people come, and they speak Lashon Hara about another person. And the person wasn't permitted to say what he said. But you say it's 2 people, it's 10 people. It's 100 people. 100 people say, Reuven is a thief. But it's not, there's no toilis. There's no toilis. It has no constructive value. Right? Do you believe the 100? No, he says like this. If a person speaks Lashon Hara, he becomes disqualified. He's disqualified. So you can have 1,000 witnesses, but if they're not qualified witnesses, they're not believed. So here this man has a cheskes kashrus. The one who they're speaking about has a presumed status. He's a kosher Jew. These people speak Lashon Hara. The moment they speak Lashon Hara, they lose their chazokah, that they're qualified witnesses. Right? So if that's the case, there's no basis to believe it. You could have 1,000 people. But we get caught up by saying, but 1,000 people are saying the man's not honest. But still, halachically, you're not permitted to believe the 1,000 people. Because unless it has constructive value, they're all disqualified. Right? Let's say you have 1,000 gamblers, right? These people, they're really first-class gamblers. And they will come testify. You could have 1,000, doesn't make a difference. They're not qualified. So the moment the person speaks, so the same thing over here. If I need the migu to give them credibility, you understand? That's not edus. Okay.